Hello there, welcome back to GCSE Labs. This video will be on animal and plant cells as part of the Cell Biology GCSE AQA Science specification. Let's begin. Going on to the key specification points, please make note that most animal cells consist of a cell membrane, cytoplasm, mitochondria, ribosomes, and a nucleus. In addition to these, plant cells consist of a chloroplast and a permanent vacuole filled with sap. Now remember, from the previous video, we did mention chloroplast and a permanent vacuole. This is because these two components, as part of eukaryotic cells, are only found in a plant cell in comparison to an animal cell. So these two components are not found in an animal cell. They are found in a plant cell. Furthermore, plant and algal cells would also have a cell wall made of cellulose to strengthen and to keep it in shape. Now, remember these two key words, strengthen and shape, because these are two key functions of cellulose for a cell wall, because a cell wall is not found for an animal cell, yet it is for a plant cell. Now, fairly straightforward. Let's look into animal cells a bit more further. This is a diagram of an animal cell, as you can already see, and it's labeled from 1 to 4. It's your job now to actually provide the names for these organelles, as we call them, organelles for the cell. So pause the video and have a go. Okay, so now you should see that 1 is cytoplasm, 2 is nucleus, 3 cell membrane, and 4 is mitochondrion. Only 4 components, fairly simple. There is no ribosome there, however, it is in an animal cell, and it always is. So now let's look at their functions. The nucleus, this is where all the genetic material, so we're referring to the DNA, let me write it here, DNA, is stored, and it controls the activities of the cell. So it controls the activities of the cell. So that makes it like the operational region within the cell. The ribosomes is where protein synthesis occurs. So in other words, this is where protein is produced. The mitochondria, this is where all the energy is transferred from by respiration, and typically aerobic respiration. So I'll write here aerobic. Aerobic. That's a terrible A. Sorry. Aerobic respiration. And you will look at this at a later date, but for extra information, as a reminder, of course, energy can't be produced, or in other words, created or destroyed. However, it can be transferred. So never say this mitochondria is where energy is produced. Never say the word produce. It's always transferred. Moving on, the cytoplasm. So this is a gel-like substance where chemical reactions take place. It contains the enzymes for carrying out these reactions. Now, these are known as catalysts, as you might have already heard, catalysts, so they speed up the reactions. Finally, there is the cell membrane. This is the component that controls what enters and exits. So you can always remember E and E. So that looks like a B, but that's supposed to be an and. E and E, the cell, and keeps it together. Keeps it together. So not that far from the job of a cell wall, however, a cell wall has more control. But we're going to go on to that for plant cells anyway. So going on to plant cells, we're going to do the same thing. Label the diagram 1 to 7 and provide the names for these organelles. Pause the video and have a go. Okay, so let's look at the answers. Cytoplasm is 1. The nucleus is 2. The cell membrane is 3. Mitochondrion is 4. The cell wall is 5. The permanent vacuole is 6. and the chloroplast is 7. The chloroplast would have been easy to identify because it's green. It's the only green component. Chloroplast is what makes the plant cells green. And there's this big permanent vacuole. So if you ever get confused between a nucleus and a permanent vacuole, which you shouldn't be, the permanent vacuole is always larger. It's always larger than the nucleus. And always notice how the nucleus is not in the center, because permanent vacuole is taking up more space. And the cell wall is more rigid, it's more in shape, whereas the animal cell would look more like this, more like a circle in a way. Now let's look at the functions of the additional organelles of the cell for a plant cell. The cell wall keeps the shape, so as we said as part of the specification, keeps the shape and strengthens it. So shape and strengthen. So this is S and S. S and S. It is made of cellulose. And cellulose is a polymer, which is why it has this job. Polymers are really strong. It's a polymer. We also have the permanent vacuole. So this word permanent is really important. It's a very AQA word as well. This holds the cell sap, which is a solution, typically a weak solution of salts and sugar in the cell. Now this is a very important component of the plant cell. It's probably the main one. The chloroplast. This is the green component of the plant cell where photosynthesis takes place. It consists of a green pigment called chlorophyll, which absorbs light for this reaction to take place to make food for the plant. Now photosynthesis, we will look at this at a later date, but chloroplast is a really key component, and it is a green component. Remember, that's what makes the plant green. And it consists of chlorophyll, which absorbs light. It takes in light energy to produce its food for the plants, which is how the plant grows. And we'll look at adaptations of the plant when looking at photosynthesis as well. But what the product of photosynthesis is, if I write the whole equation here, it would be this. Carbon dioxide plus water undergo light energy in the chlorophyll after the chlorophyll actually absorbs the light energy to produce glucose, and this is the formula, so C6H12O6 and oxygen. So this is an equation that you have to learn at a later date, but you won't need to worry about it now. So just for a heads up. Now, I hope you've taken what you need to from this video. It's fairly straightforward topic, and the next video will be on a required practical using light microscopes. So be ready for that. Do some extra revision, probably make flashcards on the different components, or as we say, the more scientific word, organelles, so you can memorize them better. Anyway, thanks again, goodbye, and see you again on GCSE Labs next time.